July 28, 1914, exactly 1 month to the day after the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was assassinated alongside his wife by a young Serbian nationalist in the streets of Sarajevo, the fragile peace of Europe shattered. On this midsummer morning, a fateful telegram crossed the border from Vienna to Belgrade. The Austro-Hungarian Empire had officially declared war on the Kingdom of Serbia. On the surface, it appeared to be a localized, regional conflict, a powerful empire punishing a small Balkan neighbor. But beneath the surface lay a complex, volatile trapdoor. This single diplomatic act triggered an instantaneous, unstoppable chain reaction of secret alliances, treaties, and mutual defense pacts across Europe. Within days, the localized spark would catch wind, pulling the world's most powerful empires into a catastrophic collision. July 28th was the exact moment the European continent stepped off the ledge, plunging blindly into the terrifying, uncharted abyss of the First World War. It was the end of the Old World and the violent birth of the modern era.
How a single political assassination could engulf the entire globe in flames, we must analyze the spectacular, catastrophic breakdown of international communication during the hot weeks of July 1914. For decades, the European great powers had maintained stability through a delicate system called the balance of power. But this system had a fatal flaw. It was completely reliant on secret alliances that locked nations together like climbers tied to a single rope. When Austria-Hungarian leaders sought to crush Serbia, they did so knowing they had the absolute backing of Imperial Germany, a blank check of unconditional military support granted by Kaiser Wilhelm II. Secure in this alliance, Vienna issued a deliberately unacceptable, humiliating ultimatum to Serbia, expecting a rejection that would justify an invasion. But Serbia had its own powerful protector. Imperial Russia, driven by Slavic solidarity and a desperate need to maintain its influence in the Balkans, announced it would mobilize its massive army to protect Belgrade if attacked. This move instantly panicked Germany, which felt encircled by Russia and its Western ally, France. Diplomacy became trapped by rigid, automated military timetables. In 1914, mobilization was not just a preparation for war, it was an act of war. Once the trains began moving millions of soldiers toward the frontiers, the schedules could not be altered or stopped without throwing an entire army into chaos. Behind closed doors, diplomats sent frantic, desperate telegrams to preserve the peace before the ultimatums expired, but their words were entirely drowned out by the thunder of marching boots. Ambition, fear, and catastrophic miscalculations had overridden human reason, rendering a global war completely unavoidable.
The declaration of war on July 28th was the definitive point of no return. As the dominoes fell, the elegant, prosperous era known as the Belle Époque, a period defined by unprecedented scientific progress, artistic flourishing, and globalized trade, was completely extinguished. In its place emerged a grim, industrialized reality that no one in 1914 could have possibly imagined. In the major capitals of Europe, the initial response to the outbreak of war was not grief, but an explosion of collective nationalistic enthusiasm. Masses of people flooded the streets, singing patriotic anthems and celebrating the conflict as a grand, romantic adventure that would clear the air and be decided by a few swift, glorious battles. But the romanticism of 19th century warfare was completely dead, crushed by the weight of modern technology. The young men who marched away so proudly with flowers in their gun barrels were walking directly into a mechanized meat grinder. Within months, the sweeping movements of infantry would grind to a permanent halt, giving way to a static, subterranean nightmare of trench warfare that stretched from the Swiss border to the North Sea. For the next 4 long years, humanity would witness the total, industrialized execution of death, the introduction of poison gas, barbed wire, heavy machine guns, flamethrowers, and tanks. The declaration of war had unlocked an industrial monster, transforming the youth of an entire generation into fodder for a war of attrition.
The global war launched on July 28, 1914, acted as the ultimate catalyst of the 20th century, completely redrawing the world map and permanently fracturing the established human order.
By its conclusion in 1918, the conflict had systematically destroyed four of the world's greatest, most deeply rooted empires. The German, Austro-Hungarian, Russian, and Ottoman empires were entirely swept away into the dustbin of history. The collapse of these ancient regimes unleashed radical, volatile forces that permanently altered the political, social, and economic trajectory of the modern world. The vacuum left by the war led directly to the rise of totalitarian ideologies, giving birth to Soviet communism and paving the political pathway for the rise of fascism and Nazism in Europe. The flawed peace terms typed out at the end of the conflict sowed the direct seeds for an even more devastating global conflagration 25 years later. From the borders of the modern Middle East to the anxieties of global superpower rivalries, the modern geopolitical architecture we live within today was forged in the fires that began with a single declaration of war on a summer morning in 1914.
The declaration of war on July 28, 1914 remains an extraordinary, permanent masterclass in how small, localized triggers can interact with systemic flaws to cause a complete, catastrophic collapse of global stability. It stands as a timeless, sobering warning that peace is never permanent, and the machinery of war is far easier to set into motion than it is to stop. As we look across our modern world, where major nations are once again forming tightly wound mutual security pacts and regional tensions are rising in critical choke points, the lessons of 1914 remain deeply vital. How do you assess the role of alliance systems in modern global security? Do they act as an essential shield of deterrence to preserve the peace, or do they risk transforming a localized crisis into a global catastrophe once again? We want to hear your analytical insights and unique perspectives, so please share your thoughts in the comments section down below. If you found this comprehensive historical breakdown valuable, please hit that like button, share this video with a fellow history enthusiast, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss another deep dive into the epic, world-shaping moments of our shared past. Thank you for watching. Stay vigilant, and we will see you in the next video.